Well, the United Nations Refugee Agency says the number of people displaced by conflict around the world has reached more than 70 million. That's the highest figure it has ever recorded. In its annual analysis of refugee trends, the UNHCR says the numbers of people forced from their homes by war and persecution has reached the ability to find safe solutions. A country providing the most new asylum seekers in 2018 was Venezuela. Mr. Filippo Grandi, who's UN High Commissioner for Refugees, says the poorer countries are bearing the brunt of the crisis and wealthier countries should do more.
The greatest number of refugees.
The global trends, once again, unfortunately, go in what I would say is the wrong direction, with another couple of million people added to the dramatic statistics of last year. Last year, we reported 68.5 approximately million people, refugees, displaced people, meaning refugees in their own country, asylum seekers, and this year the figure has increased by almost close to 71 million people. 80% of the refugees, so the people who have left their country, are in the next country. So this image, I've said it many times, but it bears repeating. You know, when you say Europe has a refugee emergency, or the United States or Australia, no. Most of the refugees are in fact in the countries next to where the war is. And unfortunately, that means mostly in poor countries or in middle-income countries. That's where the crisis is.
Meanwhile, the UNHCR says over 3,000 people have crossed into Uganda since the start of the violence in Ituri province in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced within the DRC following fighting between the Hema and Lendu groups. New arrivals in Uganda are being screened for Ebola, as some parts of Ituri have experienced an outbreak of the disease. Preparations have already been put in place because of concerns that people infected with Ebola could cross into Uganda. Just last week, Kampala confirmed 3 cases of people infected with the virus. They had recently traveled from the DRC and have since died. The Egyptian government is criticizing the United Nations for asking for an independent inquiry into the death of former President Mohamed Morsi, saying this is an attempt to politicize events. Reports say Foreign Ministry spokesman Ahmed Hafez condemned the UN suggestion in the strongest terms and insists it was a case of natural death. The 67-year-old former leader was buried on Tuesday, a day after he collapsed while appearing in court. Mr. Morsi was Egypt's first democratically elected president, but had been in custody since his removal by the military in 2013. His family have long raised concerns about his treatment in prison and say that authorities refused a request for him to be buried in his hometown. The U.S. has agreed to help Kenya in its fight against corruption by refusing entry to Kenyans who have been found guilty of corruption. The U.S. Embassy in Nairobi, as it is investigating all visa applications to see who has been involved in corruption. It says it's taken the step to help Kenya, one of its key allies in the region, in its fight against graft. This comes as the U.S. Ambassador Kyle McCarter has been outspoken in his condemnation of what he calls thievery. Coming closer to West Africa, next door Ghana, over 30 shops owned by Nigerians have been locked by unidentified men in the country's second largest city, Kumasi. This follows a long-standing row with Ghanaian shopkeepers who accuse Nigerian traders of selling inferior products. The Nigerian businesses at a vehicle spare parts trading hub known as Swame Magazine say that since last Thursday, unidentified men have been closing their shops with padlocks. The police intervened, but their shops were forcibly closed again this week. Our sister station in Ghana, Joy TV's Raymond Akwa, joins us live from Ghana. I'm told, okay, we haven't connected with him yet, but we'll come to him as soon as we can. People living with sickle cell disorder in Anambra State, southeast Nigeria, have been speaking about their daily experience trying to manage their health and, of course, their lives. According to the national coordinator of the association, Mrs. Aisha Edwards, there are several issues facing people living with the condition. She appeals to the state government for a quick assent to the Sickle Cell bill, which has been passed by the State Assembly.
Sickle Cell Day is commemorated on June 19 every year to raise awareness on the condition and how it affects people around the world. This building plays an important role to the Association of People Living with Sickle Cell Disorder in Agwata local government area of Anambra State, southeast Nigeria. Not only is it home to some of them, it also houses their skills acquisition center.
I found myself in a society which I perceived that there is this non-inclusiveness of people living with sickle cell anemia, probably because of the kind of nature that they have. I decided to set up this organization. Every person that is a member of this organization must be living with sickle cell anemia.
Despite the fact that these members have made attempts to live normal lives and manage their health effectively, they still continuously battle with drug abuse, financial stress, stigmatization, among other issues. People living with the disease applaud the 6th Assembly of the Anambra State Legislature for passing a bill seeking its eradication.
It's a very, very terrible experience. One with sickle cell disorder cannot do anything that other people do. As a sickler, they will ban you from doing some certain things so that you will not break down.
My father's side, no one helps me. Unless if I go to the people that bought our lands, some do help me out in buying in my hospital bills or buying my food stuff sometimes. I don't have anybody to help me.
According to the United Nations, it's estimated that around 500,000 people are born every year with sickle cell disease. Half that number are not expected to live beyond the age of 5. Stigmatization in Nigeria and other parts of the world is for people living with the disorder to rise above stigmatization and do everything possible to live normal lives.
Still ahead on Network Africa. Women in South Sudan brainstorm how to end gender-based violence in the country. Please stay with us.